All right. So in the last sessions, we saw like how to execute a dry run or a smoke test, and we found some issues, and I think we resolved those issues, isn't it? And what is the main objective of a dry run or a smoke test? What is the purpose of a smoke test or a dry run test?
When we are run with the multiple users, the error rate should be 0. We don't have any error rates.
That
Every
is
functionality should be work fine.
Verifying the scripts.
right. So smoke test is to make sure that there are no script issues, right? There are no script issues, etc. Then apart from script issues, there should not be any environment issues or test data issues, isn't it? And also, like, we will calculate the CPU and memory utilization. Based on that, we are going to deploy, or we are going to use those many number of load generator machines. We will decide, how many machines do we need for load test execution. Yes or no? Did we discuss all those or no, guys? So we'll see, we are supposed to see the CPU and memory utilization, right? And like we are going to use those many number of machines for your load test. Let's say if your load test is like 5,000 for 5,000 users, your target user load is 5,000. Okay, your target user load is 5,000, 5K VU, right? You can do a dry run or a smoke test with some 50 or 100 users, isn't it? So for doing a dry run or a smoke test, you can go ahead with 50 or 100 users. 50 or 100 users, 100 VU, and you will verify, you will make sure that there are no script issues, no, there are no environment issues, right? And there are no test data issues as well, right? And then we will get ready for the load test. Now before starting the load test, like you need to you need to follow a checklist, and you need to you need to be well prepared for that. You need to follow a checklist, and you should follow that checklist, and you should be well prepared for the load test execution. Now, when you are doing a load, particularly with JMeter, when you are doing a load test, particularly with JMeter, you need to follow some checklist as well as some best practices. Okay. So first of all, what are those checklists? Did we discuss that checklist for load test execution?
Yes, sir.
Already discussed? Did we discuss that already? Did we discuss this slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, did we discuss this one?
No, no, no.
No, right? Yeah. So when you are, like, so first let us, follow the checklist. Okay. So suppose if you see here, if you have what are the, by the way, can you tell me what are those checklist items? What all do we need to take care of? See, first of all, what I will do is, this is sanity test, right? I will, you can, once you verify the scripts, right, you can save the same script with some other name. Load test and save change, sorry. Okay. So let me go to file. Wait. What happened in my system? Still 6.38 GB. JMeter is not responding. Okay, right. So click on save, and you can save this same test plan, whatever you used for smoke test, right? Because you verified and you fixed all those issues, isn't it? So you can. This is JPET store sanity test, isn't it? So select the same name and change this to load test. Load test. Okay. And now just remove this. We are not, like we are not going to specify here. So save it as JPEG store load test, right? Because all these are verified. You verified the cookie manager, cache manager, and all these settings and all user defined. There are no user defined variables. Okay. So and we also discussed about script portability also, isn't it? But this is not a portable script, but you can make the script portable as well, right? So this is load test scenario now. Our load test, this is the test plan for the load test. Okay. Now obviously the load test, for load test, your user load will increase, right? You will have more target user load, isn't it? Suppose if your target user load is uh, Suppose if your target user load is 5,000, okay, so then definitely you can't do with a single machine. Yes or no? You can't do that using a single machine. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Why? Why can't we use why can't we do that using a single machine?
JMeter supports only limited users.
Right. So JMeter, a single JMeter instance, I think I had shown you this Apache JMeter website, like Apache JMeter best practices, isn't it? Apache JMeter best practices. Or whenever you start JMeter, right, you'll get that link over there. If you go to that JMeter console, let me close this unwanted, or unused programs. Yeah. So observe here, there is a link for the best practices here. If you click on that link, or if you let me copy this link, go to that link, go to that, JMeter best practices link, and there is, go to best practices where you'll see how. Yeah, here it is. We are directly in that link. There are some best practices over here, defined over here. So first and foremost one is always use latest version of JMeter, right? How do you check the latest version of JMeter? First and foremost best practice is always use latest version of JMeter. But how do you check which is the latest JMeter version? Yes, are you with me?
If we go to that Apache site, we'll see that latest release.
No, see, I did not ask, JMeter version Sai. I am asking Sai Kumar. I am asking, how do you check the latest JMeter version available in the market? Right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
go to
available in the market.
download releases, right? If you go to download releases, there you see the latest version of JMeter listed over here. So we are
I
using the
thought
latest.
out.
Huh?
నేను మన పీసీలో ఉన్న వర్షన్ అనుకున్నాను సార్, అందుకని అది పెట్టాను.
Okay. No, that is to check the version, but I am asking what is the latest version of JMeter? How do you check what is the latest JMeter version available? So you can go to download releases and you can check here. And now we are already using the same version 5.6.3 only, right? Guys, remember, this is one of the important interview questions. Can you explain JMeter best practices? Okay. And yesterday one of our student attended interviews, and I asked him to share the recording. Okay, interview call record చేసి share చేయమన్నాను to understand, like why some people are taking more time, or like some people are taking more time to crack interviews, right? So to understand, why they are taking more time, so I asked him to share the recorded one, and this is one of the question asked yesterday, right? So what are the, how do you reduce the resource requirement in JMeter, or how to optimize the resources? How to optimize JMeter resources? This is one of the important, this is one of the questions asked in the interview. Okay, right? So, or what are JMeter best practices, right? So basically we need to use our latest version of JMeter. That is first and foremost best practice. And then where to put the cookie manager, where to put the, cache manager, right? So we already discussed this, right? So if you need to add cookie manager at the test plan level, so that it will be applicable for all the scripts. That is one thing. And you need to select clear cookies each iteration. And I think we discussed why should we select this clear cookies each iteration, and why should we select this cache manager. Under cache manager, why should we select this clear cache each iteration? Did we discuss this or?
Yeah.
We already discussed those, right? So please go through the previous recording sessions if you don't remember, right? And what are the JMeter best practices, or what is the checklist that we need to follow is, yes, going back to the checklist, let me go back to the slide and follow the checklist. First, we need to disable all the listeners, and disable all the unnecessary elements, isn't it? We need to disable all the unnecessary elements. Unnecessary elements, like, what does that mean? Unnecessary element means
With test script recorder.
test script recorder, yes, you will not add that first of all to the test plan scenario. What are the other unnecessary elements? That is before you only. మీ స్క్రీన్ లో కనిపిస్తుంది ఆ ఎలిమెంట్ ఒకటి.
Debug sampler.
Right. We need to disable the debug sampler. When do we use debug sampler? When you are developing the script, if you want to see the session ID value or, parameter values, that is why we used that debug sampler, isn't it? But when you are running a load test, we are not going to use it. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
See, we had verified last time that the script is working fine, absolutely fine. Yes or no? But is this the script that we verified or, any other script? Shop and checkout script, is it working fine? Let's do
No.
that. Let's verify it once. Okay. Let's make sure that, or let me check the results file. Because, I see that we ran a test and did we collect those results into a file? Yeah, here it is. And it went fine without any errors. Yes. Okay. So this is a verified script, isn't it? 1 second, yes. Hello. Advantage, right? So you see here, like I saved it I saved the results into an XML file, and we did that on 4th October. Is it? We did that. Did we do that on 4th October? JPEG store shop and checkout. And Kona cut setup on local machine, script portability. Hey, I'm sorry. 4th October, sanity checkout test with 50 users. Yes. Right. So then test results analysis. Okay. Okay. And this confirms that this is a working script, and all the there are no script issues, etc. And now what do we need to do? We need to disable all the debug samplers wherever you add any debug sampler, right? So you need to disable them. Okay. And see, we have a lot of debug samplers, isn't it? And see, in real-time project, you'll get the scripts from 4 or 5 resources. My team low, if you have 4 or 5 at 3 people, at least 2 to 3 people. So each script will be developed by some resource, isn't it? One resource. And you need to verify all this. Those who are responsible for doing a test, right? Final test, you should verify this. Or you should ask them to disable all the, you should ask them to follow this checklist, and you should ask them to follow that checklist strictly, right? Clear, guys? They need to make sure that test data is valid, right? So particularly for user registration kind of scripts, we need to make sure that we have enough test data, and the script review is done, sanity testing is done, and the smoke test is done with those scripts, right? And we need to disable all the listeners before starting the test. We'll do that later on. First, you need to disable all the debug samplers. If there are any debug samplers, you need to disable them. And you need to make sure that you are using proper think time, proper thread properties, and pacing values. Okay. And what else? If you are using any monitoring tool, you should, start that monitoring tool 5 to 10 minutes before. But, I am going to cover, Java Melody. So there are no hassles of, starting it or stopping it. There is no need to start it or stop it. It will be running in the background. Okay. And you need to notify all the stakeholders before starting a load test at least 1 day in advance. You should inform your client that, suppose tomorrow or Monday, if you are planning to execute a load test. So you need to inform at least 1 day in advance, so that, if they want to be available, right? If they want to monitor the test, they will be available. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is they need to take care of some few things on their side. Okay. Data backup తీసుకోవడం కానీ, right? So like if there are any such requirements, right? So they will work on it, but you should inform your client at least 1 day in advance before planning for a load test. Okay. Any queries? I'll take a pause here. Any queries? No queries.
No, sir.
Okay. And then we should hold on. This is done, right? All the debug samplers are disabled, right? Save the script. And what next? And you need to take care of test data, isn't it? For user registration, particularly for user registration, every time you need to change the test data, isn't it? So am I using Prashant script for this? One second. Seems like I'm using Prashant script. Let me go to that folder. What is the file name? Test data name is user registration test data input. This one. Okay. What did you give here? Now see here. So there are only 20 set of credentials here, isn't it? 20 values or 20 rows only there in the user registration script. So will this be enough? Will this be enough, guys?
No, sir.
Definitely not, right? It won't be enough. Definitely it won't be enough. Because but definitely we know that this data will not be enough for it, because when you are doing a load test, you will be executing for what would be the load test duration?
1 hour,
Ideally
1 to 2 hours.
1 to
hour
2
to 2
hours. 1 to 2 hours, right? So now suppose you are executing a load test for 2 hours. You need to calculate how much data you require first thing. Okay. How do you calculate that? How much data will be required? How can you calculate how much data will be required?
Sir, business requirements ఇస్తారు కదా సార్.
No. This will not be given in the business requirement. This is our responsibility. So ఎంత డేటా కావాలనేది ఎలా తెలుస్తుంది? So first you need to determine how much time each iteration is taking, isn't it? How much time user registration is taking? Let's say it is taking 1 minute for each iteration. Okay. How do you know that, when you are executing a smoke test, right? So you will add think time values and then, you will execute on the real environment, isn't it? Suppose at that time you observed that, you ran a test for 5 minutes and you see how many iterations are done in that 5 minutes, right? So thereby you calculate, how much time each iteration is taking. Suppose each iteration is taking 1 minute and you need to prepare the test data accordingly. Suppose one iteration is taking 1 minute. Let's assume that one user registration is taking 1 minute for each iteration. 1 minute per iteration or iteration. Now, like for one user, this is for one user. Now, if you want to do if you want to give, let's say, we want to give like 20 users for user registration, or let us give 50 users, let's say. 50 users, so you want to run this user registration script with 50 users and the load test for 2 hours. Let's assume that you want to run the load test for 1 hour. Let it make it simple, and you want to run a test for 1 hour. Now tell me how much data will be required, how many number of unique credentials are required now for the 1 hour load test, approximately.
60.
60.
Yes, sir. Per minute, one user, right? So 60
So
minutes,
60
60 users.
60 users, but we are going to run with 50 virtual users, not with one user.
Okay. So 50 users per minute at a time. Means every minute 50 users will be there, sir.
3,000.
So yes, we need to keep at least 3,000
3,000.
user IDs in the user registration file, isn't it? We should be ready with at least 3,000 users in the file, right? So shall we create the data? Let's quickly create the data, because for user registration you need to give unique user ID, right? Unique usernames, right? Isn't it? So let's prepare the data. Okay. So I'll give the username as LT user, LT user 1, LT user 2, and so on. Password, I will give it as password 1, password 2, and so on. LT user means load test user. LT for load test. Okay. Now you can fastly create the data like this, isn't it? You can create, how much data you want, whatever, how much data you want, you can prepare using Excel very easily. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no, guys? Right. So in this way, and one more thing, why did he give this one, the user registration script? Are there 3 parameters? 1 second. what all are there in the script? Username, password, and first name. Okay, we can give for username itself as first name, isn't it?
Sir, repeat.
1 second, boss. Let me prepare the data for first name also. Okay, so I'll give it as I'll give the first name as F name anta. Is that fine? F name 1 anta. Okay, F name for first name. If you drag this, yeah. Now I want to prepare 3000 first names as well. So how to do that, guys? So make sure that you are getting in this order, or that number is increasing. And by the way, guys, okay, let me first prepare this. Okay, now this is done, right? So did you understood? You need to put your cursor at the corner until you see a plus symbol, and if you double click here, all the cells are populated. All the any case of first like username and passwords. I had created 1244 usernames and passwords, isn't it? So 1244 first names ready now. Yes or no? Guys, able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? But if you want 3000 user IDs, you can drag like this. You can drag like this. Select them and drag like this. And make any call, and if based on your requirement, you can prepare how much whatever data or how much ever data you want. Right? So for now, I'll prepare like 1500. Okay. Now any queries? I'll take a pass here. Any queries? You should get some valid question here in this case.
There is no any other option. By dragging only we can increase the value.
What is it?
Means by dragging only we can add the data. Means 3000 data is there, no? So only one way, means there is no any other option.
Oh, this is the
So
easiest
can
option, right? Yes or no? This is the easiest option, isn't it? Yes or no, Sonali? Sonali, right? Is it Sonali?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Huh. This is the easiest option, right?
Yes, sir.
There is no,
Because
this is the
3000
easiest option. See, there may be some other options also, but this is the easiest option. That is not the question that I'm expecting. I'm expecting one question here. See, remember, this is username, password, and first name. Okay. Any queries on seeing this first name? Are you getting any doubts or queries?
No, sir.
Okay. So first name lo numbers undacha? Can we have numbers in first name? Do you have number in your first name?
No.
No, right?
No, sir.
Then in that case, how will you prepare this data?
సార్ అంటే అక్కడ వాలిడేషన్స్ ఇవ్వకపోతే యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు సార్. అంటే వాళ్ళు ఆ ఫీల్డ్ కి వాలిడేషన్స్ పెడితే యూజ్ చేయలేం.
Right. So basically, as this is a demo application, it will accept first name as even though we give numbers in the first name, it will accept because this is a demo application. The JPEG store and Konakat, all these are demo applications. But real-time applications won't allow such first name. Okay. Yes or no? You take any
Yes, sir.
real-time application. If you take IRCTC or Big Basket, if you give some number in the first name, it will simply say that numbers are not allowed in the first name. A first name cannot contain numbers, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So then what will you do in that case? But you want if you want to make it unique. If there is no requirement or no constraint, you can give the same first name for every user. Same first name and same last name for every user. But username unique ga undali ante you just give unique name for user, right? But if there is a condition that first name also, first name should be unique or they should be different, then how do you create that? How do you create 3000 or 5000 or 10,000 first names, different first names?
ర్యాండమ్ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చి
Random.
Right, you can use random string. That is one way, right? You can use a random string. Just give f anichi, like give some random string or f name followed by some random string. Understood, guys?
సార్.
Last name ki give L name followed by some random string. Okay. So based on the requirement, you'll do that, like This is one of the important interview questions, guys. Okay. So how do you create the test data, or how do you manage the test data? Or are you ever involved in creating the test data? So these are some important interview questions, guys. I'm using page up and page down. Okay. So prepare enough test data, right? Anyways, we are not going to run for 2 hours. So I'll be running for only, like a half an hour. We'll do load test for only half an hour. So this is more than enough. Okay. Now I'll keep it into this file, that user registration test data input, right? LT user stands for load tester, isn't it? I had already explained. All right. And now we know what else, guys. We need to remove these spaces, isn't it? So copy this, Control C, Control H, replace that all those spaces with a comma, and do replace all. Okay. Now let me save this file. And make sure that there are no empty lines even at the end of the file. Okay, do Control A and make sure that there are no empty lines in the file. Okay, now this test data is ready. And now for for the other script, we need to provide we need to, for the other script, that is user shop and checkout script, we need to provide we need to give the user IDs that are already registered, isn't it? We need to give the user IDs who are already registered. Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
Okay, and you will give the user load accordingly. So give UTF-8. Okay. So, and this script, I am using this Bhavya script for this. Okay. Now let me check that. Okay. Let me check that how much data is there, that script. So in this way, you need, every time you run the test, you need to take care of the test data. Okay. Login credentials anukunta. What is the test CSV file name? Login credentials. Let me check how much data is there. And suppose, in some projects you will have, like credit card number, debit card number. For example, in my last project, when I was working for Qualizil, one of my last project, we need to enter some, we need to make some payment for which, we need to enter some credit card number. Now, like if there is payment process, right? Real-time applications won't allow there will be a lot of validations, right? Ideally, credit card number consists of how many digits?
16.
16 digits. In interviews, they will ask you, like, like in your flows, in any of your business flows, is there any payment step, right? Definitely there will be there. Yes or no? There may be, in most of the projects it will be. Suppose payment step undi annaru ankondi. So, they'll ask like, how did you make payment then? How did you handle that payment transaction? Right? So, we need to enter some credit card or debit card number, and who will provide that number is your client will provide some dummy credit card number. Okay, you should not enter, your credit card numbers, or or your debit card numbers, or your friend's debit card or credit card numbers, isn't it? Yesterday I saw on news that like flights ki, airlines ki hoax calls చేస్తున్నారండి. Some 17 years stupid was doing some hoax calls, fake bomb calls, it seems. Bomb threats of mine. You saw that news? So what? Huh?
Air India.
Air India, no, other flight. So but they caught him, and police caught him, and they inquired like, why are you making this? So he has grudge on one of his friends, it seems, and he created a one X account, Twitter account with his friend's name, and from that friend's account, he's making fake calls, it seems. No one read that news. And how they might have traced him, guys? Ela trace చేసి ఉంటారు?
IP address.
Right. IP address and all this private IP and all this public IP, this will be helpful to trace those guys, right? So he has some grudge on one of his friends, it seems. He created a Twitter account with his name, but he will be using his Wi-Fi only, right? He'll be doing it from his home only, or his room only, isn't it? So they traced him, and they inquired him, and this is what he is telling. This is what he told, it seems, in the inquiry. Okay. Anyways, so what are we discussing? We deviated. We got deviated. I'm sorry, guys. We got deviated. Yeah. So we'll prepare that. Yeah, we are discussing about credit card number, isn't it? So, your client will provide some credit card number. Usually, credit card numbers will be 16 digit, and it will have some expiry date also, right? Yes or no?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
you need to make sure that the numbers are valid. The credit card number or debit card number that you are entering should be the expiry date should be a valid one, isn't it? It should be a feature date. It cannot be a past date, isn't it? So in interviews in interviews they will ask you, like, one of the common interview question is, what are the challenges that you faced in your projects? I think we discussed this previously. So you can broadly classify that into scripting challenges, test data preparation challenges, and test execution challenges. Okay. So there I explained that you need to take care of, when test data preparation means you need to take care of credentials. You need to take, if you are supposed to enter some credit card number and expiry date, you should make sure that expiry date is a valid one, or expiry date is a feature date, but not a past date. Real-time applications will do all these validations. Please remember this. Okay. But how about OTPs or CAPTCHAs? How can we handle, OTPs or CAPTCHAs?
We cannot handle, sir. Capture we cannot handle.
Right. We can't handle OTPs and CAPTCHAs. Right. So then what is the solution then? Script lo, we cannot handle OTPs or CAPTCHAs with the scripts. Then what is the solution? But most of
Whitelist
the
API, sir.
uh-huh.
Whitelisting API, sir.
Whitelisting kadaba. Whitelisting, what
Already
is meant by
disable అయిన
whitelisting?
API.
What is meant by whitelisting?
అంటే మన ఐపీకి నుంచి రిక్వెస్ట్ వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఆ ఓటీపీ అండ్ క్యాప్చర్ డిసేబుల్ చేయడం సార్.
No. So you are mixing two things. రెండు కాన్సెప్ట్స్ మిక్స్ చేసి కిచ్డీ చేసావు.
అంటే సార్ మేము రెగ్యులర్ గా మా ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ లో చేసేటప్పుడు ఎలా అంటే సో క్యాప్చర్ ని డిసేబుల్ చేయమంటాం సార్.
క్యాప్చర్ డిసేబుల్ చేయాలి, ఆర్ ఎల్స్ on the database side, see, one way to handle this captchas or OTPs is they should be disabled. That is one solution. Okay. Or, the validation flag should be turned off on the database. Means whatever OTP you enter, your application will accept it if the OTP validation flag is disabled. Understood? మీరు ఏ క్యాప్చా ఎంటర్ చేసినా సరే, ఏ ఓటీపీ ఎంటర్ చేసినా, your application will accept if the validation flag is disabled. Or else we should ask them to make it static. Static means, OTP, every time the application we get a same OTP, our application accepts same OTP every time. So that is what, disabling making it as static means. Okay. Now tell me, like, how are you handling in your project or in your environment? Yes, someone is saying something. Vikram, is it Vikram?
ఎస్ సార్. అంటే మా దాంట్లో ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ లో క్యాప్చర్ ని డిసేబుల్ చేపిస్తుంది సార్ కంప్లీట్ గా.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ask them to disable the captcha completely so that your application will not display captcha and it is not required.
ఎస్ సార్.
Is it not required to enter captcha? Yes. So that because we cannot handle OTPs and captchas with script, with performance script or automation scripts, we cannot handle that. Sometimes, like client will provide you some third-party URL. OTP ki oka third-party URL is. Okay. So if we hit that URL, if you send a request to that URL, it will generate an OTP and it will send it to you. And that OTP will be accepted by your application. Understood? We'll simply send a request to that endpoint URL, OTP endpoint URL. And that OTP, that number will be, and you will correlate that number. You'll give left and right boundaries and you can capture that number. And you will use that, that OTP in your script. That is another way. Understood? Yes. Suppose, disable cheyadam kudaradanaru. Client want to test that also. Client said that we cannot disable the OTPs or we cannot, we can't ignore them. Right? This is how. Then they need to provide us the OTP generator URL. Right? For generating OTP, they will have some mechanism. If they are using any third-party URL for generating OTP, they need to provide that third-party URL and you need to send a request to that URL. Me script lo ekkado chota you will add one request. Suppose just before payment, let's say for example, you have a payment transaction, right? Just before payment, where is that payment transaction? Click on confirm lo anukunta, isn't it? or click on continue. Somewhere you will enter OTP, right? Just before that, you will add that OTP third-party URL and you will capture that, or you will correlate that OTP and you will enter that, you will use that OTP wherever required. Okay, that is another way. Okay, if interviewer asks like, disable cheyadam kudaradu in our application, we can't disable the OTP, then how can you handle that? Right? You should, if it is not possible to disable the OTP, client should provide the mechanism, like how they are generating the OTP. If they are using any third-party URL, they should provide that third-party URL. Actually, when I was working for Bank of America, they provided us some third-party URL which generates the OTP, and we used that OTP and get that OTP from that and correlated that value and used that in the script. All right. So you need to take care of the test data. You need to take care of the, these are the different challenges that you can expect in any project. Okay. And test execution challenges, we'll discuss that. Once we start executions, we'll discuss that. All right. All right. Now what next? Next thing is like you need to disable all the listeners as well. You need to disable all the listeners. Let me collapse all these elements. And you need to disable all the listeners, right? What are listeners are there here? You have some. What are listeners do you have here? How many listeners do you have here in this script?
6, sir.
Right. So you need to disable all these listeners. Then will they collect, will they collect those metrics? Will JMeter collect those metrics now if these listeners are disabled?
Yeah, sir, when giving the file name in that listener.
Right. Ideally, it should collect, right? So because we want to see all those metrics, like we want to see the response time and the error rate and all those later on, isn't it? So ideally it should collect. It will collect. JMeter will collect all those results, even though you disable the listeners in the script. When you are running a load test, you are supposed to disable all the listeners. We discussed this already, guys. Okay, and it is better to use few listeners as possible. Okay, and applying the -L flag as shown in the above point may delete or disable all the listeners. What is this one? If you observe here, this is the command to run the test in non-GM mode. One more important best practice or mandatory thing is when you are running a load test, okay, use don't never ever use GUM mode. You should execute the test in non-GM mode by using this command. What is that command? JMeter -N-T followed by your test plan name, followed by -L, followed by your results file name. Okay. Remember this command. So one of the important interview questions for JMeter. Okay. This is one of the important interview questions for JMeter. You need to remember that complete command. Okay. That is not a full command. I'll show you the full command as well. So what is that command now? JMeter -L-T, right? Followed by your test plan name. Okay. Or else let me write it in this way. I'll keep placeholders. Test plan name .jmx space -L followed by results file name .test results file. Okay, test results file name .jtl. This is another placeholder. What is meant by a placeholder? What is meant by placeholder? Yeah. So we need to use this command JMeter -N-T followed by your test plan name followed by -L followed by your results file name. Right? One of the important question in the interviews, particularly for JMeter. And now, suppose if you want to create a report, right? At the end of the test, if you want to create a report, you need to add this -E, -O, right? -E, -O. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean is at the end of the test, -E means end of the test. We need to create a report, right? So we need to give in the place of O, we need to give that folder name where that for a report, a HTML report should be created. Test report, test HTML, or else I'll give as HTML report, HTML report path. So basically here in the place of this, you need to give in the place of O, you need to give the output folder name, output folder path. Clear this? So this is the command to execute a test in non-GM mode. Why should not we use, why should we use only non-GM mode, guys?
It occupies less memory, sir, as compared to GUI.
Right. So when you are running the test in GUI mode, it occupies a lot of CPU and a lot of memory. Not only memory, it consumes, JMeter consumes a lot of memory and CPU and disk space. That's why we should run the test in non-GUI mode. And this is one of the important best practice. Or this is one thing that we need to follow to optimize the resource utilization. Okay. Did I tell you that, like one of our previous batch student attended one interview yesterday for, one of the service-based company, and I asked him to share the recorded session of that. I asked him to record the call and to share it to me. And this is one of the important interview question. How do you optimize resources in JMeter? Okay. So these are the steps, and let us discuss those. First, you should run in non-GA mode, and you should use as few listeners as possible. And when you are running a test in non-GA mode, you should apply this -L flag so that it will disable all the listeners. And then alagani, you should not you should not manually disable. Manually disable chayal first of all. You should disable all the listeners. Because if that when that -L works is, or when should we use that is by mistake, if you left over some listeners, it will disable, right? But there is no guarantee that that -L flag will disable all those listeners. So you need to better manually disable those listeners in the load test. And one more thing is always maintain two different JMX files, one for smoke test and one another for load test. So that like if you want to run a smoke test, you will have a different test plan name. Or if you want to execute a load test, you will have a different test plan readily available. Understood or no? Always maintain two different copies, like one for dry run or smoke test and another one for load test. Because, like in load test, you will make all these changes. Understood or no?
Yes.
Right? And then don't use view results tree or view results in table listeners during the load test. We should not use view results tree or view results in table listeners during the load test. Use them only during script phase to debug your scripts, right? We should use them only when in the script development phase or to debug a script. And don't use functional mode. What is this functional mode? Functional mode means, if you go to the test plan, there will be something called, this one. You see here, functional test mode. When you select this, if you select this functional test mode, it will save the response data and sampler data, right? But don't use this one. When you are doing a load test, you should not use this one. Here at the bottom, it is clearly mentioned. Selecting functional test mode may adversely affect the performance. Adversely means good way or bad way? Adverse means
Bad way.
right. So it will have a bad impact. Adverse effects means bad impact or bad effects, right? You should not select this functional test mode. And then what is the next one? Instead of using a lot of similar samplers, use the same sampler in a loop and use the variable to vary the sample. Okay, I need some context to explain this. I cannot explain this, with the theoretically. Let's move on to the next one. Use CSV output rather than XML. This is another, way to optimize the best JMeter resources. This is another way to optimize the resources. What is meant by resources here, guys? Optimize resources means what is the meaning of that?
CPU, memory, disk network.
Right. Resources means here CPU, memory, disk, and all those. Right? System resources here. Okay. Optimize resources means to get optimal performance, maximum performance from minimum resources. Understood, guys? And then use CSV output rather than XML. Okay. Use CSV output rather than XML and only save the data that you need. For example, like sometimes what we do is, for example, like when we are placing an order here, if you are writing, like if you are saving that, or else, if you are doing user registration, or else, let me take this example, shop and checkout script. Let's say you are working on shop and checkout script. And whenever you place an order, some order ID gets generated, right? Suppose you are writing that order ID into a file, right? Do it only when it is mandatory. Don't do it unnecessarily. That is what it means. Only save the data that you need. And because if you are writing, if you want to save the data, you need to open some file, and again it will consume a lot of CPU and a lot of memory, right? And use as few assertions as possible. Okay. We discussed this one also. Suppose if you want to add multiple response assertions, let's say for example, మీకు user registration step lo, suppose if you want to enter account and save info, here if you want to add response assertion, you want to add one more response assertion, let's say. Okay. Don't add one more element. Add, suppose ikkada if you want to add one more response assertion, either here or at the login step here, right? Use only one element. Don't use multiple elements. Understood, guys? Don't use multiple elements here, right? And don't use this kind of response assertion, guys. By the way, మీరు login అయిన తర్వాత like you should give welcome message or something. You should give welcome message followed by the username, right? I think whose script is this? I think this is Bhavya's script. Bhavya's or Prashant's script. Whoever it may be. So use appropriate response assertion, guys, particularly for login step. Otherwise you will not know. See, JPET store application లో మీరు లాగిన్ అయినా అవ్వకపోయినా ఈ వేరియస్ బ్రీడ్స్ అనేది చూపిస్తుంది. ఎస్ ఆర్ నో? లెట్స్ వెరిఫై దట్. PT scripting scenarios. See here, even though you logged in or not, it will show you this various breeds another, it will be there, right? But if you log in, right, it will show you some peculiar message, right? It will show you some welcome message, isn't it? Use this one as response assertion. Bhavya.
Okay, sir.
Okay, use this welcome message, or else use this one. Only when you log in, this sign out will be displayed. Sign out option and my account will be displayed. You should always use appropriate response assertion. Very important, guys. Okay. Next best practice is use the most performing scripting language. Okay. Applicable when we write some custom coding. Only when we write some custom coding, use the most performing scripting language. And Groovy scripting antaru basically. Groovy scripting is the most performing scripting language. But if you want to use that again, you should learn Groovy scripting. Not mandatory, but you can use JSR223 or Bean Shell. That is fine. And if your test data needs large amount of data, particularly if it needs to be randomized, create the test data in a file that can be read with CSV dataset. This avoids wasting. I'll do one thing. I will highlight the important statements in this. Okay, this one is important. Not all are important, but this one is important. And only use as few assertions as possible. You need to remember, guys, the highlighted ones. Okay. Don't use view results or view results in table listeners during the load test. This is one more important one. Okay. Please remember these highlighted ones. Okay. To optimize the resources, right? And now you also need to use multiple machines, right? Will one machine will be enough? Definitely no, right?
No.
Yes or no? Now, guys, are you with me?
Yes,
If you want
Yes,
to
sir.
execute even a 5,000 user load test, you need multiple machines. You need at least 2 to 3 machines, or at least 4 to 5 machines, depending on your scripts and depending on the number of transactions in each script. Right? My application complexity in batti, like you may need like more than one machine, definitely. Right? Now, when you are using multiple machines for executing a test, that is nothing but distributed testing. What is distributed testing? Distributed testing is the kind of testing which uses multiple systems to execute any performance testing. Yes? Hello? What is distributed testing? Distributed testing is a kind of testing which uses multiple systems to execute any performance test. Right? And now, how to use that? When you need to use multiple machines, how to integrate all those machines, right? So this is how we will do. So basically, target means, if you see this, observe this diagram, observe this image, right? So let me use Spotlight. So target means the application under test, whatever application you want to do performance testing, that is nothing but your target. And suppose in this diagram, they are using 3 machines for doing load testing. And they are using, like in this diagram, one machine is being used as controller node, and the other two machines are used as worker nodes. Okay, controller and worker. Those who are familiar with LoadRunner lo kuda we call that as, one machine will be used as a controller machine, and the other machines will be used as anyone who completed LoadRunner also, or anyone who is having some prior knowledge on LoadRunner. Okay, I'll take your silence as no, but no one attended, LoadRunner training also before with us, or anywhere before. So many. Okay, I think you are attending current batch, right? So many.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So ఇంకా scripting లో ఉన్నట్లుంది. LoadRunner batch is still in scripting, isn't it?
Yeah, correlation చెప్తున్నాను.
Correlation. Okay. Oh, you are attending that session also, right? Currently. So 9 to 10:30. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So in LoadRunner also, we have this terminology, same terminology. Like one machine will act as a controller, other machines will act as a load generator machines. Load control, in LoadRunner, those are called as load generator machines. JMeter calls them as worker nodes. Okay. Worker nodes are slave nodes. Okay. In JMeter distributed testing, there is a concept called master slave or controller worker. Why two terminologies is, so previously initially they used to call it as, till last year or before last year, they used to call one machine is designated as master machine, the other machines will be, they used to call it as slave machines. But from last year onwards, maybe they did not like the word slave, that's why they changed the terminology, or they are moving to industry standard terminology. So one machine will be acting as a controller machine, and the other machines will be acting as worker machines. Clear, guys? So now, we'll execute the test from the controller machine, and the scripts will be running on all the machines in JMeter. In JMeter, particularly with JMeter, the scripts will be running on all the machines, but the one particular machine will be used to start the test and stop the test, or to control the test. That machine is called as a controller node. That machine is called as a controller node. Okay, clear, guys? Any queries? Suppose you are using only one machine, there is no issue. So you need not discuss all these, or you need not bother about distributed testing. We'll do one thing. We'll execute, test in non-GI mode with single machine first. Okay. And then we will discuss this distributed testing. But distributed testing is one of the important concepts for JMeter. Definitely, like medium to large scale projects में చేస్తున్నారు అంటే definitely you need to go for distributed testing. Okay. But if the target user load is just 500 or 1000, below 1000, then you can go for single. You can do a load test, execute a load test with a single machine. Okay. Is it clear? When do we use multiple machines and when do we use single machine for load test?
Yes.
And can we use our office laptop to execute a load test?
No.
Suppose you want to execute a 2000 user load test or 1000 user load test. Can we use our office laptop? Mostly no, right? Because your office laptops will be having 16 GB RAM or 8 GB RAM, 8 or 16 GB RAM max, and they will be having Windows 10 Pro. Okay, so we cannot like practically it's difficult to execute load test with our office laptop or your personal laptop. Understood, guys? The reason is your office laptops or personal laptops will be having mostly 16 GB RAM only, right? And processor, the OS also will be like, if you are on your personal computer, you will be having Windows 10 Home, isn't it? But in your office laptops, you will be having which operating system you will have in office laptops, guys? Windows 10 Home untada? Those who are keeping experience, interview lo adigaru, for example, what is the operating system in your office laptop and adigaru anukondi? How do you answer that? Right. Say Pro operating system, Windows 11 Pro no, 10 Pro no Japan. Okay. But in office you will not use home operating system. Please remember this. Right? Even though still if you are even though you are using Pro operating system, your system configuration may not be sufficient. Your office laptop configuration may not be sufficient for executing a test, because if you observe this, see for example, if you observe my machine itself, even though it is having 16 GB RAM, how much is available? It is having only 3.9 GB, isn't it? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. So because your operating system will be consuming lot of the lot of RAM, and you will be having not more than 16 GB RAM. Office laptops, no, you will not have more than 16 GB RAM. You should not execute from office laptops also. First of all, suppose you are doing a performance testing for US project, you should execute the test from. You should generate the load from US location only, not from Hyderabad or Bangalore, or in your from your hometown. When you are working for a US project or UK project, you should generate load from their country only. So client will provide some remote machines with some server operating system with at least 32 GB RAM. Okay. Even if they have 16 GB RAM, that is fine, because those are server operating systems, and those are much more efficient. They will be much more efficient. Or they will provide some Linux machines. Okay. Mostly, you will be executing test on Linux machines. So that is the reason I asked you to learn those Linux commands. So how many of you completed, like I think I asked you to learn at least 10 Linux chapters, 10 chapters in that Linux tutorials, right? So how many did you complete, guys?
Linux stabilizer, SQL.
No, we did not discuss about Linux commands, how to practice Linux commands.
No, sir.
No problem.
Okay. So go to the open a tab, open a browser and go to this website, webmineral.org. Go to this website, everyone. Webmineral.org. Okay. And now click on register and create an account for yourself. Enter your username and email ID, valid email ID. Give some valid valid mail ID, and then password, and accept the TOS, terms of service, right? And click on register. And once you click on register, you will get an activation email, right? From this registered email address. And then you need to activate your account. You need to activate your Webmineral account, and once you activate your account, log into that terminal by using your credentials, perf test password. And now I logged into my account. You can see, can you see here, it is showing that you have been logged in. Now once you log into the terminal, right, see, if you want to practice Linux commands, you need not install Linux operating system, or you need not buy a laptop or a desktop with a Linux OS. So you can practice those Linux commands over here. Once this is a free site, absolutely a free site. No need to pay even any single rupee also. Once you log into your account, click on terminal. Again, it will ask you for your credentials. Enter your username and password again. Okay. And once you enter your credentials, you will get a dollar prompt like this. Now you can practice your Linux commands. For example, one of the popular Linux command is who am I? Okay. If you type who am I, it will show you your username. Whoami command will show you the username with which we logged into this account. Clear? And then if you want to see the data, simply type data, and it will show you the current date and time in seconds over here, isn't it? It will show you the current date and time in seconds, date command. So these are some Linux commands. Now, sir, what should I do like if I don't know Linux commands? If you see on the right side, there are some lessons over here, tutorials over here, isn't it? So select lesson one, and there are some commands that you need to know in lesson one. One command is PWD. PWD stands for not password. PWD is not for password, but PWD stands for present working directory. In which directory you are currently available, okay, or in which directory you are accessing. If you observe here, I am in this directory, home perf tester. That is the username with which I logged in, isn't it? So PWD stands for present working directory. Okay. Clear cut description is given here. Current working directory. PWD will display your current working directory. Okay. And like you have, you need not learn all these tutorials. There are around 20 or 50, there are 20 tutorials or lessons over here, but you need not learn all the tutorials. You just practice first 10 lessons. That would be more than enough. Right? Can you bookmark this? Did you register with this website or no? Please do that. If not, I will take a break here. I'll take a short break. So if you add Linux commands and SQL to your skill set to your CV, your chances of getting shortlisted will be higher, as well as like you can demand more package also if you can answer basic SQL queries and Linux commands. Okay, it is enough if you answer basic SQL queries, what queries you have used, right? You need not be writing inner joins, outer joins, and all those. I think yesterday I told you, like, go to w3schools.com to learn Linux, to learn SQL commands. Go to w3schools.com and go to SQL and go through first 20 or 25 lessons. That is enough. There are around 40, there are around 100 topics over here. You need not learn all those. First 20 would be more than enough. First 20 concepts would be more than enough under SQL tutorials. In the same way, Linux also first 10 are enough for you. If you are interested to go through all those lessons, complete a list, most welcome, right? You will be a master in that. But like first 20 or 50% or first 25% here. SQL tutorials around 100 ఉన్నాయి ఇక్కడ, around not 100, like 50 to 60 ఉన్నట్లు. So first 20 would be enough here in SQL tutorials. But in Linux, like first 10 lessons would be enough here. Okay. Guys, what happened? Are you able to log into your account, Webminal account, or no? I'm not asking any Linux commands to you. I'm just asking whether you are able to log into your account or not.
Yes, sir, we are able. I'm able to.
Okay. And you got this terminal, Linux terminal. See, Linux terminal, dollar symbol will be used in Linux terminal, isn't it? Whereas in Windows command prompt, you'll see that angle bracket, isn't it? Right? You'll see this angle bracket, right? Whereas in Linux, you'll see the dollar symbol. And SH, you'll see this SH. Okay. SH is for, what is this SH?
Shell, sir.
SH is for shell, right? Okay. And how do you calculate, now how do you calculate how many machines do you require for load testing? I think we discussed already, right? So if you are using web protocol, each user, will consume 10 MB RAM. I think we discussed this, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes or no? So based on that, you will calculate like how many machines you want. And then, you will ask your client, suppose if you want to do a 5,000 user load test, you ask your client to provide 5 machines, right? Client will not readily give you, or a client will not readily accept that. He'll ask why. Why do you need 5 machines, right? So you need to give justification. So you just share this link, like distributed testing link. Okay, go to distributed testing. And there is one section where this is explained, like limitations. Under limitation section, it is explained that a single JMeter client running on a 2 to 3 gigahertz CPU, recent CPU can handle 1000 to 2000 threads depending on the type of the tester. So highlight this, or show this one, show this statement. Because suppose if they say that I'll give you more powerful CPU. So having CPU alone will not be sufficient. You need to have RAM also. You need to have enough system resources. Okay. Or else, suppose client says that, like if you say like, each user consumes 10 MB RAM, client may say that, I'll give you 64 GB processor. Sorry, 64 GB RAM. Or client may say that I'll give you 128 GB RAM. Right? But increasing the RAM alone will not be sufficient. Allocating more RAM alone will not be sufficient. Your processor also should be able to support that. Even though you get a high-end processor and high-end RAM, okay, let's say 128 GB RAM and you got a high-end processor, but still there are some limitations to JMeter. There are limitations to JMeter itself. JMeter can handle only 1000 to 2000 threads. Understood, guys? మీకు సూపర్ కంప్యూటర్ ఇచ్చారు. క్లయింట్ సెడ్ దట్ ఐ విల్ గివ్ యూ ఎ సూపర్ కంప్యూటర్ వేర్ you have the most powerful processor and 128 GB RAM or 1024 GB RAM. Okay, but still JMeter itself having some limitation. You can't go beyond 2000 in any case. Understood, guys? So depending on, suppose if your target user load is 5000, and let's assume that one machine can support 2000 users. Still you need 3 machines, right? Yes or no? If one machine can handle 2000 users, still you need, if you want to execute a 5000 user load test, you need at least 3 machines. And one machine you will be using as master machine, the other 2 machines as slave machines. Okay. Any queries? I'll take a pause here. Any queries?
No.
Okay. Well, next thing is, if there is any antivirus or, it should be turned off during the load test, it seems. Okay. If there is any antivirus, it should be stopped during a load test because it can dramatically impact the timings, leading to wrong results. Okay. And if there is any firewall, uncheck that firewall, uncheck internet connection firewall. You need to disable the firewall. And to do this distributed testing, we have some, prerequisites. We'll discuss that in another session. Guys, I'll stop it here for today. I'll continue tomorrow. So tomorrow we are supposed to have a session, right? So we'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Let me stop it here. First, let me update this tracker. So at what time shall we connect tomorrow, guys?
Same time.
Same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let me stop recording.